skaters, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I am Coach Julia, and today we are going to be working on one of my very favorite spins, the layback. Oh, I love this spin. Before you do it, you want to have a strong attitude spin. So if you haven't worked on that attitude, I am going to put a link down below where you can learn that attitude spin, both off ice on a spinner and here on the ice. You can practice it, get it strong, get it as perfect as you can, and then we can begin working on this layback. Now, a good layback requires some open hips, but also really good back flexibility. So the first thing we're going to do is head over to the wall and do some back stretches. Okay, so over here on the wall, I have a little stretch routine that I actually learned in ballet class when I was a kid. And it was so good for good back flexibility that I brought it over to the wall at the rink. Now, when I did it when I was younger, I would do a back bend and get my nose on this white part. And I don't do that anymore, but I want to challenge you to keep practicing and try to get your nose on the white part. Now, you might not understand what I'm talking about now, but I will show you. So we're going to start with our back to the wall, heels as close to the wall as you can, hands on that wall. Now the first thing we're going to do is open up our chest, okay, so that we're kind of curved. You can see I'm curved with my chest out. I'm going to lift up my chin and roll all the way down, okay. This is stretching out my spine. A layback compresses the spine, so I want to stretch the other way to limber that spine up as well. So I'm starting by stretching out the spine. Now I'm going to stick my toe picks in the ice, drop my hips down so I'm in a little ball, get really good grip of that wall, and I'm going to push my hips forward and drop my head back. Okay. We're going to do that a few times. So we roll all the way forward. Toe picks in the ice, drop your hips down, get good grip of that wall, push the hips out and drop back. Now, I'm not as flexible as I used to be, but that goal, now you can see, try to get your nose to the white. We're going to try it one more time. We'll see how close I get. Roll all the way forward, toes in the ice, drop down, get that good grip, hips forward, and drop. Well, I only got the top of my head to the wall, but with a little bit more practice, I probably could get down there again. But for you who are a little younger and still have a really flexible back, it's probably going to be a much easier goal. So work on it, okay? Grab that wall, come over here and stretch. Now the reason I like doing it facing away is because in a layback, we need our hips out in front of our skates. And if you do it this way, I see a lot of kids practicing it this way, you end up with a perfectly straight posture through your legs and your shoulders rocking back. And this does not work for a layback, okay? If you are here and all of the stretches in your upper back, you're gonna fall backwards. You're not gonna have a deep layback. So if you do it away from that wall, your hips can push forwards and you're more in the correct position for a layback. So now that we have done some stretching and our back is limbered up, it's time to work on this layback. Now I have sort of a 4-step process that I like to teach my students. The very last one is dropping the head. So I don't want you thinking about that until you've worked through the other 4 steps. So the first step is going to be having a nice attitude spin. But this attitude spin, we're going to put our hands in front of ourselves like we're holding a big beach ball. All right, so our hands out in front. Now there are lots of beautiful different arms you can do in a layback, but the easiest way to learn it is with both hands in front of your body. So we're going to put them just a little bit below the shoulders but above the waist. Okay, so they're kind of rib height. Circle. All right, the other thing I want you to really focus on with this attitude is that high leg with your foot turned out as much as possible. So you want that foot turned to the side, so just parallel with the ice. Laybacks are really unattractive if your toe is pointed down. So lift that knee and turn your foot so that your blade is parallel with the ice. So we're going to try that attitude one more time. We have a really straight spinning leg, arms to the front, turn that foot as parallel as you possibly can to the ice. And that is step one. So our second step is going to be taking our attitude position and then turning our body away from our leg. So often with an attitude, your leg can get to the side a little bit. So I want you to think about turning away from that leg. So it's very subtle, but when you're doing a layback, one of the most common mistakes people make is they push their hips out and it drops to their inside edge. Okay, and you make this great big circle and you fall out of the layback. So to help prevent that, in this next step, step two, we're gonna try to almost counter rotate our body so we're facing away from our arch and almost towards our little toe. Some of this happens in your hip and some of it happens in your left shoulder. Think about your left shoulder pulling back towards your right hip, okay? Now, I'm spinning counterclockwise, so I'm teaching this counterclockwise. So for me, it's my left shoulder. If you're a clockwise spinner, it'll be the other way. It'll be your right shoulder. All right, let's give step two a try. So we go into our attitude, and then we turn away. So I now have extra pressure on the left side of my body, and I'm facing my left outside edge. Now we are ready for step three. Step three is the hips. Now this is the second most common mistake. I already told you the most common, and that is dropping to that inside edge. The second most common mistake is that people try to do a layback with their ribs, okay? I have seen students, they're out there with their hips back and their ribs forward, and it is the most awkward looking layback. And I really try to help them, but it's hard to keep a straight face because it looks so awkward. So you want to keep those hips straight, and then the layback starts in the hips, okay? The upper body only comes into play once you've gotten used to having those hips dropped forward. All right, so step three, we're going to do that attitude, we're going to get that left side pressure, and then we're going to push those hips directly forward. We do not want to drop our right hip while we do it. So try to keep your hips really square, pushing as far forward in front of your toe pick as possible. You should feel a really big stretch through the front hip of your spinning leg. All right, let's give this a try. Attitude, left side pressure, hips. All right, that is going to feel really weird. You're going to have your chin tucked still, because we're not dropping our head. I don't want you dropping your head until you have these hips down. If you drop your head at the beginning and you're not used to it and you're not centered and balanced, you're gonna go flying off. It's really dangerous. You get dizzy, so don't do it. All right, so you can see that those hips pushed out. I still have my hands fairly low. Eventually you could lift them up, but for now your hands are low and you're just pushing those hips forward, all right? Now, before we move on to step four, you have to get your spin centered before your hips get out very far and before your head drops back. So let's talk about centering. So let's get this spin centered and then we'll go back to step three, which is the hips. So the first thing you want to do, and you want to center it in step one when you're in your attitude, but centering happens in two places. It happens on your entrance and it happens where you stand in your foot. So you want to bend down and really hook that knee around, all right? So I've talked about this in previous videos about how to center your spin, especially my 1 foot spin tutorial. I'll post that down below. But laybacks travel so badly if you're not careful that I want to address it again today. So if I'm starting on this black line, you can see this little black line with the curling circles. I'm going to try to make a heart shape, and my spin does not begin until my toe is pointed back towards where I began. All right, so I'm staying on this line and I'm making that hook. All right, so you really want to focus on that in step 1 in the attitude position. Okay, so we go, get that knee down, center, and then we can think about the hips. Now this brings me back to the hips. So we have that half heart, the entrance that helps us center. And then when we push those hips, we want to push them forward, not inside, because that will also cause us to travel. So for that step 3, again, it's the hips. We go into our attitude. We push that pressure on the left side. We're going to drop those hips straight forward, as far in front of the toe pick as we can. Now this brings us up to my last step, step 4, and that is our head. Okay, now this is the part that is going to make you so dizzy if you're not used to it. So your head is going to drop straight back. Now if you were going to take this as a test, you would want to be able to get your head the height of your shoulders or lower. Now I'm not as flexible as I used to be, so I'm not doing it completely all the way back there like I'd like to, but that's going to be your goal. You want to get your head shoulder height or lower, okay? So I'm going to recommend you try doing some 2-foot spins looking at the ceiling. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, so dizzy. But you got to get used to it while your both feet are on the ground so you're not falling over. So you do a little 2-foot spin, drop your head back, and watch that ceiling spin in front of you. Maybe take a minute, cover one of your eyes. All right, get yourself centered, get yourself not as dizzy. But once you have gotten a little bit more used to that, we can try it in our layback. So we're gonna roll through all 3 steps. Really hook that front, get centered, attitude, shoulder pressure, hips, and head. And there you have your completed layback. Yeah. All right, skaters, I hope you enjoyed this video. I love laybacks, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of your laybacks on Instagram. Make sure you tag me at Skating Coach Julia so I can see your progress. If you enjoyed this video, please do give us that thumbs up. And as always, I look forward to reading all your comments in that section down below. If you haven't done so yet, then hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell down in the corner so you can see all my videos when they come out. Happy skating, and I'll see you next time.